Let's take a look at setting up zone transfer traffic between primary and secondary copies of your DNS information. Let's open up DNS, and we've got our two servers listed. So for SL-SRv3, we've got a forward lookup zone for xyz.com, and that is a primary copy. So if we set up a secondary, so let's go ahead and set up a secondary. Once we set up a secondary on the second server, we'll have zone transfer traffic between the two. So set up the secondary, new zone, secondary copy, and what's the zone name? xyz.com. IP address of the master server where we're getting this information. And there is our secondary copy. So you'll notice that the primary, all 6 records, secondary, all 6 records. Now from the secondary, you can force a zone transfer by right-clicking and saying transfer from master. There you go. Well, from the primary copy, we've got a couple options for that as well. So checking out the properties, we can go to the Start of Authority tab. On the Start of Authority tab, we have something called the refresh interval. And what this means is every 15 minutes, a secondary copy of the zone will contact the primary DNS server and attempt to get a new copy of the zone information. So the secondary is polling the primary every 15 minutes. Now, if there's some kind of network connectivity problem and that fails, then the retry interval is 10 minutes. So the secondary will try again every 10 minutes, and then if the secondary can't contact the primary for up to 1 day, then the secondary copy will disable itself from processing client queries. Another thing to be aware of is the serial number up here is 17 in this case. You can increment that, and then the next time a secondary polls the primary, they'll see a difference between their copy of the serial number and the secondary copy. So for example, primary here says 18. We'll click OK. Secondary copy, let's check that right away. And we should have a version of 17. A little grayed out there, but that's the version of 17. So the next time this secondary polls the primary, it knows it's out of date, and we'll have to pull a new copy. So back to the primary, properties, SOA tab. We've covered that. Let's take a look at the zone transfers tab. Now the default in 2003 is to allow zone transfers, but only to servers listed on the name servers tab. Checking out the name servers tab, I have defined that second computer as having an NS record, so that is an authorized server to receive the information. On the zone transfers tab, it used to be to allow zone transfers to any server, which is not very secure, because HackerX could come in and ask for a zone transfer, get all your records. If you want even more security, you can select the third button and only allow zone transfers to particular IP addresses, so very particular servers. To the lower right, you also have a notify button, and this allows a primary to notify secondaries when the zone changes. So when I was on the SOA tab, and I incremented the serial number to 18, that notified the secondary of the change. And the default is to notify servers listed on the name servers tab. So it was notified, which means it will pull the new information relatively quickly. Or again, you can lock that down to only particular server IP addresses. We'll see how our secondary is doing. And we'll check the properties. And it's still sitting at 17, so what we could do is force a zone transfer. Check it again. Should be 18. Oh, not there yet. So we'll do this. We'll do a reload. Okay, so it's encountering problems here, so that means I must have misconfigured something. Let's check it out. So on the zone transfers tab, so I forgot to undo the setting here, so we need to allow zone transfers only to servers listed on the name servers tab. There we go. Now a zone transfer should be successful. We'll try it again, and there we go, it is successful. So my error is your gain. We'll check out the SOA tab here, and yes, it is now serial number 18. One last thing to be aware of is that zone transfers between primary and secondary zone copies is clear text, not secure. So you want to be careful about where that information is going across. If it's going across a WAN link, then you could have hackers out there retrieving your information across the wire. So something else you can do is instead to change your primary or secondary copy of your zone to an Active Directory integrated copy. And if that's the case, then you no longer have zone transfer, and the DNS changes are replicated along with Active Directory changes. And that information is secure going across the wire. So that is a benefit of Active Directory integrated zones.